Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we are going to can some deer meat. We've got a lot of deer meat in the freezer this year, but I always like to have some canned meat put up on the shelf just in case, you know, emergency. And it's just great to have a pint-sized jar of canned deer meat that you can pull out of the jar and eat on the run. Tastes great. Tastes like stew meat, basically, is what it tastes like. But there's a lot of different things that you can do with it. You can just open it up, warm it up, put it on a bed of rice, mix it with some vegetables, eat it plain. It's pretty simple, and like I said, it's just nice to have some canned deer meat up on the shelf that you don't have to freeze. Last couple years I've done this, and I really like having that canned deer meat up on the shelf to open up and have on the grab and go. So, but what you're gonna need is you're gonna need a pressure cooker canner. This is a Presto 23 quart pressure cooker and canner. I bought this year. I've ran one batch through it and it turned out pretty good. I think I got it off Amazon for about 130 bucks, but I'll put a link in the description to this canner. And I've got, of course, deer meat. I had 4 deer that I packaged up, the bottom round, and so today we just cut it up into 1-inch chunks. So I don't know, there's probably maybe 10 pounds. And then I've got some beef bouillon cubes, some minced garlic, and I've got 7 pint-sized jars. You can use quarts. Today I'm just going to use pints because that seems like that's a good serving for 1 or 2 people. But yeah, that's equipment and ingredients that you need. We sterilize these jars. You don't have to per se, but they recommend sterilizing them. But I just figure they get sterilized or in the pressure cooker and canning process. So, but we clean these up, and we're gonna go ahead and stuff these jars with this meat. Some people use scoopers, but I'm just gonna use my hands because that's how I roll. I'm gonna stuff these jars until it gets about 3/4 to an inch of the way from the top. I'm trying to get as many air pockets and bubbles out, but that's good right there. Yeah, about 3/4 or an inch from the top there. Got them stuffed. Alright, I got all the jars stuffed with meat. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add, and some people don't even put anything in here. Some people put canning salt. Everybody's got their, but I'll just try to keep it simple, and I'll just add 1 beef bouillon cube and 1 teaspoon of minced garlic. Pretty simple. Like I said, you can add whatever you want in here. I do not add any water into the can because after you pressure cook and can this, it'll draw that water out of that meat, and you'll have water in the jar after the canning process is over. So I don't add any water. I've seen people do it. Probably wouldn't hurt anything. You just probably have, just not necessary in my opinion. And that's it. You got meat, minced garlic, beef bouillon cube. That's basically it. That pressure cooker will really break down that tissue really good. So really any meat, it'll break it down pretty good, and it'll be tender. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the rim of these jars and then put the lids on, and we'll be ready to stick them in the canner. Wiping off the rim of those jars really good. You don't want any debris or any blood or anything like that on them. That way the lids will seal. So we got all the rims cleaned off. Next thing we're going to do is put the lids on. Got these on, and I'm just gonna not get them super tight. They'll seal once they go to pressure cooking can, but just hand tight. I've heard that you're supposed to use new lids every time. I've seen people that use some lids quite a few times, several times. But these are all new lids, so. Got them all stuffed in the jars. The next thing we're going to do is put them in the canner. It's got a seal right here. I'm going to rub a little vegetable on there. That way that seal doesn't break down. I've canned before without doing that, but they just say they recommend putting some oil around that seal. So that's what we're going to do. Just take my finger and rub some oil on there. Doesn't take a lot, just enough to spread it around. All right. So I just put some vegetable oil around this seal. That helps protect the seal, lubricate it a little bit. But next thing we're going to do is we're going to put these cans in the canner. And I don't have enough cans to fill up this canner, and to keep these cans from tipping over, I'm just going to stick a couple empty jars in here with water, and that way those jars don't tip over, because if they were to tip over, they'd probably bust. So I'm just going to fill these up with water, just stick them in there, and that way they can't really tip over. All right, we got all the jars in the canner here, and so I'm going to fill this canner up with water until about 3/4 of the jar is submerged in water. So all right, that's probably good right there. And we're going to go ahead and put the lid on. See if I can, there you go. All right. All right, we got the lid on. We can do this a couple different ways. This is a 15-pound weight, but for what we're doing for pint-sized jars, and it depends on your elevation where you live at, but for where we live at, it calls for 10 pounds of pressure for 75 minutes. This is a 15-pound weight. If you didn't have a pressure gauge and you just had a weight, you would need a 10-pound weight, but we're just going to go off the gauge today. But before I put this weight on, we're going to leave this open, and we're going to heat it up until it starts steaming. And once it starts steaming, we'll wait 10 minutes, put the weight on, let it rise to 10 pounds of pressure, and we'll cook it for 75 minutes. All right, we've kicked on the stove here. I've never used an electric stove. Every time I've done this, it's been with gas. So we'll just kind of have to pay attention to our settings on the stove and just keep our eye on it and manipulate it a little bit if we need to. But right now we're just gonna heat it up and wait for steam to come out, and then we'll go to the next step. All right, it's finally started steaming. So once it starts steaming, I'm gonna set the timer to 10 minutes, let it steam for 10 minutes, and then we'll put the weight on. All right, this has been steaming for about 10 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this 15-pound weight on here, and that'll cause this to build up pressure. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till this gets up to 10 pounds of pressure, and then once it gets to 10 pounds of pressure, I'll set the timer for 75 minutes. Once the pressure builds up too, I've got a little indicator right here. This little pressure indicator will pop up. Now if you didn't have this pressure gauge, you could use this weight if you had a 10-pound weight. And once this weight started jiggling, then you would set your timer for 75 minutes. I just have the 15-pound weight. I don't have a 10-pound weight, so I'm just going to go straight off the pressure gauge. So we're going to let it build up to 10 pounds, and then once we do that, we'll start the timer. All right, so we just hit 10 pounds of pressure here. So I'm going to start my timer for 75 minutes, and we'll just we'll have to manipulate the stove to kind of keep it at that 10 pounds. Don't want it dropping don't want to drop them below 10 pounds. But yeah, so like right now it's kind of getting past 10 pounds, so I'm going to drop the heat down just a little bit, and then we'll just kind of keep our eye on it. We'll keep it around 10 pounds of pressure for 75 minutes and see what we got here. All right, it's been cooking for 75 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. It's a little easier to maintain the pressure on the electric stove. On my gas stove, I was able to get the pressure up faster, but I had to manipulate it more to keep it at a constant pressure. On this electric stove, it took a little longer to get it up to 10 pounds of pressure, but I found that once I got it up there, it stabilized itself a lot easier than the gas stove. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and turn the stove off. And I'm just going to before I do anything, I'm going to let it cool down, let the pressure go all the way down to 0, and then I'll take the lid off and we'll see what we got. Alright, so we cooked it for 75 minutes at 10 pounds of pressure. Turn the heat off and let the pressure go all the way down, and now it's time to see what we got. Alright, so they make these little tongs that you can dip the cans out with, but I'm just gonna be dangerous and once you pull them out and let them sit for a sec, you'll start to hear the lids pop, and that's how you know that they're sealed. So we'll let them sit there for a sec, and we should hear the lids pop on them, but once they seal, they'll suck back down in, and those lids will be sucked down and they'll pop. Shouldn't take too long for them to start popping here. So another one just popped, so you can kind of hear them popping there. There's another one. Another one just popped. Well, all of them popped and all of them sealed off, so they're still pretty smoking hot. So we're gonna let them cool off, then we'll put them up and store them, and then. But anyways, that's canning deer meat. If you have any questions or comments or advice, I'd love to hear it. We're not professionals at this. It's kind of been something that we do every year, and so we'd love to hear any feedback, questions, comments. Just let us know. But anyways, that's canning deer meat.